Ladies and gentlemen, here we are again. This time there's big news because Juventus are going to change their coach. Thiago Motta will be sacked. An announcement is imminent. It will come probably today on Sunday, the latest on Monday. But Igor Tudor is already arriving to replace the ex-Italy midfielder, sign a contract until the end of the season and try to save the Juventus campaign in the last 9 games. In one of the last few videos that I published from Florence after the Juventus defeat, I reported Giuntoli's words. He said, we're going to get out of this difficult situation altogether. We're going to stick with Motta and we hope we can turn these situations around. Clearly, this wasn't the case because 1 week later, basically, Motta is no longer the Juventus coach. So how did the Juventus get to this point? It's simple and complicated at the same time. By watching Juventus from the outside, you could see that there is no longer unity between the team and the coach. And in the last few games, there had been tactical confusion as well. Many players used outside position. There was tactical confusion. It was all a big mess. And I have to be very clear, I mean, everyone expected Motta to be sacked immediately after the Fiorentina game, and it was kind of surprising that Giuntoli didn't sack Motta right away. Juventus took a little bit of time. There was a meeting between Motta and Giuntoli earlier this week, and then the Juventus management met with John Elkann, the Juventus owner, and they got the green light to change the coach. Gazzetta reports that the meeting between Motta and Giuntoli was particularly tough, and even that Giuntoli told Motta, "I'm ashamed of having chosen you." It feels very strange because 1 year ago at this stage, we basically knew Motta was the most likely successor to replace Massimiliano Allegri. He had been chosen directly by Cristiano Giuntoli, thanks to his amazing season with Bologna. He allowed Bologna to qualify for the Champions League for the first time in over 60 years, Thiago Motta. Things clearly didn't work. The start wasn't extraordinary, but nobody expected Juventus to be, the front runners, the top team to win the title this season, but not even being so far from the top 3 and being in contention to fight for a Champions League placement, especially for the investments that have been made in the market. This is part of Giuntoli's responsibilities as well because he's in charge of transfers, but at the same time, he did everything he could except maybe the Gleison Bremer replacement in January, but all the other signings were done following Motta's instructions as well. So Motta was given the budget and the players to develop his project, and clearly he wasn't able to carry forward. First part of the season, there were highs and lows, too many draws. First of all, in Serie A, there were good wins in Champions League against Manchester City, even if, all the troubles that they're having this season, it's still Manchester City. And probably the most meaningful win was in the Champions League against Leipzig. Leipzig didn't have a great Champions League campaign, but that specific match, Juventus lost Bremer to a serious knee injury, season-ending injury that night, very early in the first half. They were reduced to 10 men in the second half, but they still managed to climb back, come back from 1 goal down, win the game 3-2, and they showed an attitude that in the past was nowhere to be seen. They just pressed very high, tried to play attacking football, and Motta celebrated with the team. Everyone was hugging each other inside the pitch, and the team really seemed really united, and it seemed really a new starting point for Juventus, a new opportunity to instill a new sort of mentality in the team and in the club. But clearly things didn't continue and didn't go as well as everyone hoped at Juventus. The second part of the campaign, the draws turned into defeats rather than victories, and the relationship with Motta with most of the players collapsed. I mentioned this already in some previous videos. There was an article from Gazzetta dello Sport from this week which explained pretty well, all the issues between Motta and Juventus players, starting from Vlahovic, then Danilo, then Gatti, then Perin, then Yildiz, then the fact that he always changed the Juventus captain. It was supposed to be Danilo at the start of the season, but then when it was clear that Danilo was no longer a starter, he started changing these captain armbands, going to Cop Miners, going to McKennie, going to Gatti, going to many different players, but Juventus really lacked a leading figure inside the dressing room and on the pitch, and this is a reflection of Motta's decisions as well. He was the one who didn't want Danilo on the pitch. He didn't put Danilo on the pitch for many games, and he led to his exit. Nicolò Fagioli was not a dressing room leader, but he was somebody who was at Juventus for his entire career. He knew the club inside out, and he was pushed out because he was not given enough playing time. There were a lot of errors on the pitch and off the pitch, but ultimately I think that Thiago Motta wanted to be recognized as the sole Juventus leader, which is something that in the end he paid a high price for. It's of course very bad when somebody loses his job. Clearly Motta still has more than 2 years left in his contract with Juventus, so until he finds another club, he is going to still get the money from Juve, but from a personal and from a personal perspective, it's never nice when somebody loses his job, but it's clear that many decisions didn't go the right way, and results on the pitch proved that he was no longer the appropriate person to carry the project forward. I'm going to show you a number later on. Just mentioning the last 2 games, Juventus lost against Atalanta and against Fiorentina. They conceded 7 goals and they scored none, and so they saw Bologna leapfrog them in 4th place in Serie A. The defeat against Atalanta was even the heaviest defeat at home, 4-0, since 1967. So this alone says a lot about the state Juventus went into in the final weeks of Thiago Motta's tenure. I'll show you these stats with the Juventus number in Serie A compared to previous Juventus coaches. There we go. You see Motta, 52 points after 29 games. Allegri had 59 in the previous 2 campaigns and 56 on the first year of his second spell. Pirlo also got 59. Basically, you got to go to 2020-21 to get less than 52 points, and it's Gigi Del Neri with 42. This means Motta has the second worst record in Serie A in the post-Calciopoli era, which is something massive, especially for the amount of money that Juventus spent in the summer and in the January transfer window. More than 200 million invested in players that even Thiago Motta wanted. Tom Cop Miners is a player that he strongly wanted at Juventus and that he wasn't able to put in the right condition to provide goals and assist as much as he did as Atalanta. Nico Gonzalez as well. He's been on and off the pitch with injuries, but he was unable to prove his worth and was nowhere near the levels at Fiorentina. Dusan Vlahovic is somebody who's still the best Juventus scorer as of today this season, and he has played barely 400 minutes in 2025. He's just started 4 games since the start of the year, and twice when Colomwani was not available. So there were mistakes from Thiago Motta, and again, he has paid the highest price for it, but I think it's inevitable. And even after the Fiorentina defeat, I thought it was inevitable to sack Thiago Motta because he reached a level where the team no longer developed, and many players were clearly not happy with his management, and so it was no longer possible to continue with him. It's very sad for him. He's a young coach. For sure he's going to have other chances in his career, but 100% failed at Juventus. He didn't get the results, and he didn't even get the playing style that everyone expected. You know, the start of the season, there were no defeats in Serie A. There were, again, highs and lows, but it was overall acceptable to see a Juventus that was slowly building something. In the second part of the campaign, it was all destroyed. There was nothing to be saved, really. And this is just, I think, a natural consequence of what happened and what Juventus showed, especially across the last couple of months. Champions League elimination against PSV, a team that then conceded 7 goals to Arsenal against Arsenal just a few weeks later. Coppa Italia elimination against Empoli, a team that hasn't yet won in Serie A in 2025. It's just not acceptable, and it's the tip of the iceberg, because the defeats against Atalanta and Fiorentina and those cup eliminations are the tip of the iceberg, because there were other problems which I discussed in previous videos as well, but the end was absolutely inevitable, and it was actually surprising that Giuntoli didn't sack Motta right away after the Fiorentina defeat. There were talks, as I said, that took place with the management, but this is an exit that, an end to the story that seemed inevitable given what Juventus had produced in recent weeks. So the next steps will be Tudor appointed as new coach, signed a contract for sure until the end of the season, and then we got to see whether he's going to have an option until 2026, whether the option becomes an obligation to extend the contract if Juventus qualify for the Champions League, or if another project will start next season with a new coach as well. Right now, the priority for Juventus is fix things on the pitch and try to reach the top 4, which is not going to be an easy challenge, because they have 9 games remaining. They're 5th. They're playing away at Bologna, Roma, and Lazio in 3 of these final 9 games. So surely Igor Tudor has a very tough task for these final games of the season, and then we'll see what will happen with him. We'll see what will happen with Giuntoli as well, because clearly Thiago Motta didn't get the best out of these players, but Giuntoli got a few deals wrong. For those leaving, and especially, for those arriving and especially for those leaving, there was something that wasn't entirely accurate, to say the least, from Giuntoli. But there will be time to talk about the Juventus future. For now, what is for sure that Thiago Motta will no longer be the Juventus coach. The project didn't even last 300 days. It was supposed to last until 2027, but too many things didn't work out, and unfortunately for him, this was an end that was clearly inevitable. So if you like this video, subscribe to the channel. There will be more updates on Serie A, more analysis on Italian football as well, with Italy playing in the Nations League against Germany and Serie A resuming next week. Igor Tudor will make his debut against Genoa on March 29. And stay tuned. Again, subscribe to the channel if you like this video, and we're going to speak very, very soon about all things Italy and Serie A. Ciao.